Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? What's going on? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Account for Your Life podcast. Jay Moore, the healthy accountant, helping you to account for your life. And today we're going to look at some bad habits. I'm going to look at my bad habits, and I'm going to tell you some bad habits that I had and really how I kind of got through them. I was on the phone with one of my friends maybe about a week and a half ago, and we were talking about some unrelated stuff, and somehow we got on the topic, and I found a gift inside of bad habits. Wow. Can you imagine getting a gift inside of some bad habits? So I'm going to share with you 3 things that I discovered that really helped me to get through, that I was able to then, just kind of use that. And that's how I've continued to evolve over the past, probably 10 years at this point. So thanks for joining, guys. If you have not picked up the Tax-Free Wealth Masterclass and bonuses, man, you got to go check that out. This broadcast is brought to you by Living Free Financial Services, who provides, help to, really kingdom entrepreneurs, the folks who are aspiring to be kingdom entrepreneurs, mission driven, folks that are really looking to do some really good things in the world. And look, one of the things that you got to make sure you don't mess up on is your taxes. So if you're bootstrapping, if you don't have all the the funds that probably to potentially pay somebody to kind of really help you to do all of this stuff, like we really help people to save a bunch of money, then you can get a lot of the things that we use inside the program. So go to taxfreewebchallenge.com. You can pick that up. Ran a special last week, so you probably I'm not going to tell you what the special was because you missed it, but it's back to regular price. So go there, pick that up, and I pretty much guarantee that you'll get way more savings from taxes just by implementing the things inside of this program. All right, guys, so let's jump right into this. So bad habits. What's a bad habit like? I think it was in 2019 or 20. I can't remember. I read this book. I think it's written by I can't remember the guy's name. His name just left me. And it's the habit on. It's the power of habit, and the author, which Charles something, the power of habit. And he goes into a lot of like scientific and stories on how people develop habits and change habits and all that stuff. But as I was talking to my friend a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about some stuff, and I said, I quit, and I started naming all these things I quit. I just quit. I quit doing this. I quit doing this. I quit doing that. I quit doing this. And one of the things that I discovered while I was saying that I quit these things, I said, it never seemed hard to do them. I want you to think about this. Like, this was a bad habit. I smoked cigarettes. Like I smoked, I didn't believe that I was addicted to them, but I did it enough that, my wife didn't like it. And my girlfriend, maybe I think she was a girlfriend, but I did it, and I did it regularly. And nicotine is one of the hardest things to kick. People have a hard time stopping smoking. And so I used to smoke, and which is kind of crazy. I used to smoke. And here's what's interesting. It was when I said, I'm not going to do it anymore, that I stopped. So here's what's interesting. When you stop doing something, the first thing you got to do is you got to decide. You got to make a decision. I decided to change. That was the first thing I thought of. I said, well, you know what? I don't think that that's going to get me to where I'd like to be in the long run. So if that's not going to get me to where I'd like to be in the long run, then I personally should change. So I decided to change. And so I made these changes, and the first time I attempted this, I went back. I want you to think about this. How many times have how many times have we done this, like decided to do something, but then fell off? See, I think that's the question. At least for me, I was having the hardest time with the change because I did not take it to a new step. Now, before I tell you what that step is, before I tell you what that step is, and just kind of going back to the conversation with my friend and discovering that I quit things fast, and once I decided to change, and then there was a reason, guys. What you think about this? The reason you change is more important than the results you get. Write that down. The reason you change is more important than the results you get. And so here's the thing. When I decided I would stop smoking, when I decided I would stop drinking, when I decided I would stop doing some of these habits, bad ones. Think about this: drinking and smoking weed. Those are three boo-boos. Those are some boo-boos. Wherein now, oh, it's politically correct. Oh, I smoke weed. People smoke weed now. People smoke weed now. Like that's just, why don't you smoke weed? It's legal in a lot of states because it's still going to impair my mind. And like at the end of the day, when I read my Constitution, the Constitution said I shouldn't have anything impair my mind. I shouldn't have anything impair my body. I shouldn't have anything that's hurting my senses that I cannot hear. I cannot hear the one who is powering my life. So for me, when I decided to change and I realized, I says, wow, my reason was the gift. Because imagine this. I remember back in 2014, I needed to lose some weight. I think it was like 20 pounds. Man, I wish I had the pictures to show you because it was real. I put them on Facebook. They're on Facebook somewhere. And I put up a before picture and then I put up an after picture. And I needed to lose like 20 pounds. And back then, I was just doing it to lose the weight. What you think about it? I just did it to lose the weight. And as I just did to lose the weight, I decided to change. I did it. But I gained it back. I gained I didn't gain it all back, but I gained at least 10 of it back. And it was when I was like, oh my goodness. This is where the second step comes in. There has to be a new concentration. I want you to think about this. And this is what I did. This is not me telling you to do it. This is just what I did to get results. I had to focus on a new concentration, like say, for instance, with the weight. And I'm going to get back to the cigarettes in a second. Say, for instance, I know, right? I'm talking about smoking cigarettes. My mom was probably like, Jay, you used to smoke cigarettes? Yeah, but that was in my family line. Like, I think my aunt was a smoke, like everybody smoked. So if everybody smoked, and I was around that, even though we were Christians, even though we went to church every single week, the environment dictated a lot of stuff that I could potentially participate in, and I did them. So a new concentration had to emerge because, guys, we all want results, and I'm right now applying I'm applying this to some other areas of my life. The results we would like typically have to coincide with the reason that we choose, the reason that we use. And when I had a really good reason to do what it is that I needed to do, it wasn't hard anymore. That new concentration, like say for instance, when I gained the weight back, I had to concentrate on something totally different. I says, well, I'm not actually trying to lose weight. Even though I may have to lose a couple of pounds here and there, like even now, I could stand to probably lose a couple of pounds. But I've been gaining more muscle. So I'm just like, well, what's my concentration? My concentration is kind of like being healthy. How can I be healthy? I talked about this maybe about a week or two ago when you asked this question, how can I be healthy all the time without ever having to try and lose weight? How can I be healthy without ever having to try and lose weight? So because that, I formed a new concentration. Well, I would run, I would work out, I would watch what I eat, I would watch what I drink, I would do things now that would help me get to the result, but that would no longer be the concentration. The concentration was doing things that would get me there. But then at the end of the day, the reason for doing it was was even stronger. Dad had a heart attack. Dad had a major heart attack. Dad has experienced things in his life that I didn't want to experience. That reason was big enough for me to say, you know what? I have to avoid diabetes. I have to avoid heart disease and high cholesterol. I have to avoid those things. If I can avoid that, then I can potentially have this life. Now, when I go back to things like drinking and smoking, the reason was, man, I wanted to show up and be the best husband that I could be. I wanted to show up and be the best father. I don't want my kids to, to follow in the footsteps of what I'm doing. I don't want my wife to be ashamed of the fact that I'm coming home and this is, man, you always drinking. Man, you always smelling like smoke. I had to concentrate on something totally different. I had to concentrate on becoming more than I ever thought it could be. That was the concentration. But lastly, in concentrating, having clarity is key. I had to really get clear on some things about my life, because breaking bad habits, guys, I'm not going to make it small and say that it's easy, because for most it's not. I mean, let's just think about it. For most of us, it's not easy to break a bad habit. A bad habit, think about a habit that was formed think about a habit that I formed that I did for 40 years. Think about a habit that I formed that I did for 10 years, did for 5 years, did for a long period of time. So that when it comes time to break the habit, it's like, wait, there's no way I can break this habit. How can I break that habit? How can I just stop and go cold turkey? They say, like, a lot of times you can't go cold turkey on breaking habits, which for some it's possible, but for many it's not. So what I did is, one, I had to decide to change. Two, I had to find a new concentration. And three, I had to have clarity. I had to have total clarity. You can also say having clarity of purpose, like really finding purpose for your life, finding purpose. That's interesting. Finding purpose on what it is that we should be doing in our life, finding or discovering, like, guys, we all came to the world with a purpose. There's no one who was born in this world who was not created for something specific. I was created. Think about this, and I'm thinking about this out loud. The first profession I decided I would go into was being a doctor. I want you to think about this with me as I'm thinking about it, as I'm about to close here. I decided I'd be a doctor. So why would a doctor smoke? Why would a doctor be drinking? Why would a doctor be doing things that's making him unhealthy? It doesn't make sense. I cannot show up in the world as my authentic self with those habits. I'm just thinking about this. I'm the healthy accountant. That's like being a doctor. I'm helping people to see things about their life and their business that's unhealthy. What if I'm walking around with an unhealthy life? That doesn't make sense. And because it doesn't make sense, actually having clarity into what your purpose could be and what my purpose could be, but I didn't know what my purpose was back when I actually discovered these things. I had no idea what my purpose was. I wasn't working from purpose. That's why I can come back and share with you these keys, because I didn't know what I was doing until I did them. And it took me time to even come back and say, I remember a few years back, maybe, oh my goodness, it might have been like 2016 or 7, maybe 2000. It might have been 2018. No, it's 2018, I think, when I actually came up with these principles: change, concentration, clarity. I came with these principles, and while I came up with the principles, I was still developing the principles. I was still developing them. Now, as I look back even further, as I've gone further along, and then coming back and says, wow, the reason I was able to kick my bad habits had nothing to do with the fact that I would kick the bad habits. It had more to do with the purpose that was in my life before I came into this world. See, when God was talking to Jeremiah, and he told Jeremiah, he says, look, before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. You would be the person that I called you to be, even before you were thought of, even before you were created. And so even before I was created, that purpose for which I was personally created was already there. I then had to discover it because it was already with me. And while I was discovering it, I didn't even realize I was discovering it. I was just, hey, I just kicked these bad habits because the purpose for my life was stronger. The purpose was stronger for my own life. See, at the end of the day, guys, as I'm going to let you go, I'm going to close out here. At the end of today, at the end of any day, the purpose for which we were created is the driving force. Now, here's the thing, though. Many of us don't discover the purpose for which we were created. We allow the habits to run our life. We allow the habits to take us to places we don't want to go. We allow the habits to give us results that we ultimately hate. My question for you today is, if you had a purpose, or if you could find your purpose, would you look for it? That's my question. Now, if you would like to answer that question, go answer it. Because today, I'm sharing with you my personal journey of change, a new concentration, and clarity, which showed me the purpose for which my life was created: to live healthy, to be healthy, and to always have healthy results in everything that I personally do. So guys, I thank you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. I'm Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. God bless, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the Healthy Accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.